Hello everybody. We got a 2009 Mini Cooper, non-turbo, non-supercharged car, the N12. Today we're going to change the valve covers and spark plugs and air filter on this car. And my name is Eslick from How To Automotive, and I'm going to walk you through that process. I'm going to start this job by removing the air cleaner. So we'll take off the clamp here for the boot that hooks up to the mass air. We'll take the torque bits out and take the air cleaner off. There's also a 10mm bolt right here you'll take off, and then the wiring harness for the mass air, it just has a little clip on it. You just push down on the clip and pull off. So you'll take your air cleaner aside and set it aside. Go ahead and take your air filter out since you're going to change it anyways. Alright, the next step is to get this valve cover off, and we're going to start by removing the covers. So we're going to remove the covers, and then also remove any electrical connectors. And this is the PCV vent hose. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put a screwdriver underneath here and squeeze the bottom up and push down with my fingers on this and push the whole hose off. So I tried that and it didn't actually work. So what I ended up doing is putting a flat blade screwdriver under here and prying up a little bit here and pulling it a little bit, and then a light little pry on this side, and it popped it off. So now that we've got that off, we'll start by I'm going to start removing these covers, removing the looks like torque bits here. So after removing the two screws here, the Torx, the T30 bits, you're going to need a little screwdriver here and pry these little tabs in here along the edge here on the front cover of the cover, and then that should free your cover right there to get to the coils. And okay, now that the cover's off, we can unplug our coils by flipping the lids up on the coil plugs here, like so. Pull these all off, and then these are just pressed in, so you can either get your fingers on it and pull it up, or if it's really tight, you may have to get a little screwdriver or something to pry up here on the corners here and pop it up. But I found if you give them a little twist like so and pry, and they'll come up like so. So we're going to take all of our coils out and lay them out. I try to put everything back the way it goes. You don't, if you mix them up, it really wouldn't matter, but as long as you don't mix up the wiring when it goes back on. So after we get the coils out of the way, we're going to unplug. We're going to unplug these little catches like so, all the way around the wiring harness, and pull the wiring harness off the valve cover. And we're going to disconnect. I'm assuming this is a cam plug here, cam sensor. We're going to unplug that and pull the wiring harness off like so, and do the same all the way around it. It has a little attachments. So now we can get. So after we get all that, then what we're going to do is remove all of our bolts that go around the valve cover itself. I think there's about 12 bolts altogether. We're going to remove all of those bolts. And then, okay, there's 13 bolts total holding this on. So they start here and they go around the valve cover like so, all the way around. And then there's also a couple down inside the tubes here. There's 2 of them in there. And then one of them has the ground wires that hold the wiring harness on. So you're going to have to get a 10mm wrench and back it up, and then take the little nut off that holds the wiring on. What happens? It'll try to spin if you don't break the connector if you don't back it up with a 10 wrench. Okay, now that you got all the bolts and the wiring harness all lifted up and out of the way, now we can pry the valve cover up. So we're going to pry with my little pry bar or flat blade screwdriver in a couple spots, little light pries, and then you don't want to heave on anything. And you kind of work your way around in a couple spots until the valve cover is free and pops up. So now I was able to just pry the valve cover up, and I had to lift up the corner of the wiring harness and kind of pry it out of the way to get the valve cover clear. So I got the valve cover over here on the ground here, and so I went ahead and took the gasket out, and I went ahead and took all the tube seals out that went in here. So you're going to take them out so they get hard and then they start leaking. So now the next process is to clean everything. So I'm going to thoroughly, I use a pressure washer, and I'm going to just pressure wash the whole valve cover. And then on the engine side here, I'm going to use a combination of rags and brake clean parts washer and spray it. And you want everything to go away from the inside of the car. And then on the corners here, there's going to be a little bit of silicone. You have to scrape the silicone out. After you get all that all cleaned out, then we're going to transfer put a new gasket on it and put it back on. We also have these right here on the edge, on the bottom of these ears here. There's seals here too, so you got to be careful that you have them, and you change those out too. There's two of them, one here and one there. So now I'm gonna clean it up, and I'll show you how to reinstall it. Okay, now that we got our surface, we got the silicone out of the corners here. We got the top of the cylinder head clean. Make sure you clean the tube seals here, and also down below where those long purchase for the valve cover. That's where they seal, so you want to clean down there too. So after getting all that cleaned up and cleared off, the next step is to put the new gasket on the valve cover, and we're going to put a little silicone here in the corners, right here where the cams go through, and we'll put the valve cover back on. One of the things is I am doing spark plugs on this job, but I'm not going to do them right now. I'm going to do them after I put the valve cover back on. That way, if I take them out now, I risk the dirt or debris or whatever falling in the cylinder head, and I don't want to do that. So I'll do that after I get the valve cover back on. Okay, so now we take our new gasket, and they have these little rubber things. That's what actually holds the gaskets in place. So you put those, feed your gasket in around. Make sure you put your tube seals in, and the seals that go on the little ears here. Make sure those are all in. And what I like to do is after I get them all in and pressed into place, I like to kind of flip it upside down and kind of give it like a little shake test to see how. So some of these gaskets will fall out. They'll just fall out really easy, and some of them will stay in. So if they're tendency to fall out, then I'll use a little bit of 3M weather adhesive and glue them in spot. But if they are tend to stay in place for me, I will just put them on natural without anything. And then on the corners here, you might have gotten a little oil in the process of doing it, so I'll use a little brake clean on a rag like this and wipe the surface of the valve cover off, the gasket off on all of them. And then I'm going to put silicone on the corners of the cam. So I use a little bit of black silicone on the driver's side of the cams right here and right here, and that's it. Just a little dab. You don't need a whole, you don't need a large amount of it. So now I might get a helper, or I probably do it myself, and you kind of slide the valve cover in kind of like at an angle like that, with this in the passenger side first, and kind of hold everything out of the way and slip everything back down. And then once I got it all down, I'm going to double check the edges all the way around from here. One other thing I wanted to mention to you is now is the time to check the timing chain guide here, and check for any damage on this. If there's any damage on this, you want to recommend replacing the timing chain. This one looks to be in good shape, and the chain feels to be tight and looks to be tight, so I don't have any problems with mine. But you might want to check into that on yours, especially if any of these guides break off, that chain will skip, and then you'll have a potential major engine damage, valve to piston damage. So the valve cover went on really easy. I didn't have any troubles. So what you want to do is you want to take your mirror and shine it, and put it down there, and you shine your flashlight on there, and as you can see, if you look in the mirror, you can see the gasket. So you're going to check that all the way around the valve cover, front, back. So now that the gasket appears to be in shape, and you can even kind of look down the tube seals if you have a real small mirror, and you can look in there. But if you don't, you can kind of tell the way it fits by looking down in the tubes. You can tell. So now we're going to put our 13 bolts back on and go ahead and bolt the gasket back, the valve cover back down. But when we do it, we're going to tighten it so we're going to tighten it, snug them. We're going to run them all down snug first, and then we're going to tighten this bolt first, this bolt second, this bolt third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and then you'll do these also in the middle. So you're going to do basically a crisscross pattern. I actually think I might start with these first. These two first, in the middle first, and then go for your crisscross pattern. And then once you do it, tighten them all down snug. You know, give them that quarter, that little extra quarter turn, snug. You know, snug them down. You'll feel the gasket actually crush down a little bit, and once you feel it crush down, you know you're secure. And you do that in a crisscross pattern. You may go over it a couple times. One of the tricks to getting these bolts down here is if you put a little piece of paper in your socket like so, and then stuff the bolt in it, and turn it upside down, it won't fall off. So then you can put your bolt in, start your bolts down like that. And it's just a little piece of paper, so you don't have to worry about it. You just pull it off and give it a little wiggle, and it'll pull off like so. Don't forget to put the one bolt with the stud on it here in the front, because that's the one that holds your ground wire for your coil pack. So go ahead and put that on, and then put your nut back on. Now after that's done, I'm going to change the spark plugs now. And then after that, I'll assemble the coil packs, and I'll plug in all my wiring harness. To get the spark plugs out, they have these little 12-point sockets. You'll have to have a deep 12-point socket. And this one happens to be made just for the BMWs and Minis. It's made by AST. The part number is SP1412. And yeah, without this tool sliding it down that tube, it gets really tight. And this is very thin, and it goes in just right. So when you take your spark plugs out, I recommend you do it all by hand. Don't do anything with power tools, because the cylinder heads are really easily stripped. And when you put it back in, the same thing, put it back in by hand and snug them down by hand until you feel the crush washer. That's right here on the new one. You'll feel it crush. Like as you tighten, it'll crush a little bit, and you'll feel that with your hand. You don't need a ton of torque on these. Okay, after putting our spark plugs in, now we're going to put our coils back in, and you just slide them down the tubes like so, line them in the little grooves, and push. So you can do all 4 coils. Now you're going to take your wiring harness, and you're going to, with the ear all the way up, you push it in like so as far as it'll go, and then lock it down with the tab, and that's it. You do all 4 of your coils, and you make sure you do it in order. So if all 4 of your coils plugged in, and you can see how the wiring harness is laid, so you can tell how they just all plugged back in. So now we're just going to take our little ears, put them back over the little, push those all the way back on, and we're going to do that all the way around whatever ones came off. And we're also going to plug in our cam sensors again, and those just push on like so. And all the wiring harness, wherever it popped off, anywhere we took it off, we're gonna reassemble it all the way around the valve cover. And after that's all done, that is pretty much it for the valve cover. The valve cover is done. Now we're just gonna put our air filter back on. We're going to blow any debris that's in the air box out. We're going to blow it out with an air blower, and then put our air filter on, put our air box on, and we're done with the job. We're also going to put the engine cover back on, so that just slides on like so. Get bend your wire out of the way, and line it up with the tabs. You go in first like so, and snap those into place. Okay, after putting the cover on, the air filter back in, the air box back on, plug in your mass airflow sensor back in, tighten all the screws and the clamp for the air boot. You're done with the job. The only last step would do is, I like to do is take it over to we have a pressure washer, and I'll pressure wash the engine around the areas where it was leaking, and then check it, start it up and check it for leaks. I'm Brian Eslick from How To Automotive. And I'd like to thank you guys for watching my videos, and remind you to subscribe.